Welcome to another RaiderPower Mailbag. We've been away the last couple of weeks, but we're back. We're back on track. I'm Jarrett Johnson, and I will be flying solo for this edition, but RaiderPower senior writer Joe Yeager will return next week. We have a lot of great questions once again. With this edition, we're going to jump right into them with a recruiting question from Masked Rage. He wants to know if Patrick Mahomes, if he gets drafted high and he does decide to go the pro baseball route, if his scholarship would count, or what Tech would do with his scholarship. There's several things they could do. I don't think they would offer. He wanted to know if they'd offer one of the walk-ons. They'd go ahead and give them or offer them a scholarship. They could do that, but I don't think that's what they'll do. I think it's more than likely that they'll use it for a midterm for this 2015 class, a midterm signee that could count back towards the previous class, a la Fehoko, Braden Fehoko, the defensive tackle commit, and Jarrett Stidham, the quarterback commit. Both, at least those two, are both midterm, expected to be midterm enrollees and be here for the spring. So hypothetically, they could count towards the 2014 class, and which would free up Tech to use more scholarships with the 2015 class. Texan for Tech wants to know about Tony Morales. He said he's not sure how much time Tony Morales has missed, and if Tech could possibly use a medical red shirt a la Rashad Fortenberry, how they did with him, and add an extra year. That's a great question. As a matter of fact, if you look at Tech's roster, if you look under Tony Morales, he did have a medical red shirt in 2011, his true freshman year. So, which is weird because they also listed him as a junior last year. He was part of the 2011 class, 4-star, one of the top 5 centers in the country by every recruiting service, and he hasn't seen the field yet. So that medical red shirt, when it actually goes through, would be his freshman year for 2011, and then 2012 would be his redshirt freshman year. Last year would have been his sophomore year, so this should be his junior year. So, in theory, he should have the 2014 season and the 2015 season of eligibility. And beyond that, I'm not even sure if Texas Tech knows what they're doing going forward. They kind of handle that as it comes along, as they did with Fortenberry. Next question, also from Texan for Tech. He wants to know if I can speak to the development of Kali Woods, and if I think he'll make the rotation this year. I heard little to nothing about Woods all throughout spring, and that's because linebacker is actually the one position on defense where Tech does have some experience coming back, especially with VJ Fehoko transferring over from Utah. So at inside linebacker, you see VJ, Slug, Sam McGuavin, Micah Awe, and Malik Jenkins. All those guys at the 2 inside linebacker spots. You could even see Wimbush, who is kind of being moved around. He's an older guy with more experience in the system that I know Coach Wally's talked about him possibly playing some Raider, playing some inside. So I don't see Woods cracking the lineup. But, hey, injuries happen. Maybe he does. And maybe he sees the field on special teams. Next question is from Frisco Texan. Recruiting question. He wants to know, despite some awesome college stats and some success, obviously, of Texas Tech receivers in the NFL, why Tech never seems to land truly elite wide receivers. And what do I think? He wants to know what I think my key is to getting over that hurdle. Well, that's an easy answer there. Win, and win big. Truly elite as far as graded by recruiting services. Elite receivers want to go to truly elite programs. And we can't say that Tech is an elite program right now. Excuse me. They've been a good program, especially under Leach. It was a very good, and they were scratching, trying to get to that. Obviously 2008, they kind of sniffed it, but not truly elite. And they've reeled in some 4-star. I mean, obviously Crabtree was a highly rated guy. Ian Sadler last year, he's not, I wouldn't say he's truly elite, but he's a 4-star guy. He's a state championship MVP in Texas. Cameron Batson would not be considered elite, but he was the Gatorade Oklahoma State Player of the Year. And there are some guys in this 2015 class coming up, like Tyron Johnson, who are out of New Orleans Easton Charter. He's a top 10 receiver. I think he's rated number 6 in the country by Scout.com. He would be considered a truly elite receiver, and he has Tech on top. Obviously, LSU is offered, so that's going to be consideration. But there are some guys who are definitely considering, and as Kingsbury progresses, as the program progresses, that might be able to come a reality, and especially at receiver, as you said, because all the opportunities in this passing game. Next question is from Tapadaka. He wants to know, this is a great question, another recruiting question. He wants me to rank the importance of each position, of which position that Tech really has to hit on. They have to land on in this 2015 class. And he gave his list, which I agree with for the most part, especially up high. Number 1 is quarterback. Obviously, when you only have one scholarship quarterback on your roster, you gotta come through. Jarrett Stidham is as good an answer as you're going to find in the country. Great prospect. Seems like a really great young man. So that's good. With Mahomes, his uncertainty, I mean, Stidham signing on the dotted line, getting to campus this spring is just a necessity. And then they have to keep doing that, to keep building the position. And then next, for me, definitely the trenches. Tech has to build up on defensive linemen at first, and then offensive linemen. Keep adding. And they know this. This is you can tell by the way they're recruiting, by the way the staff's recruiting. They're only going to get to that next level by building up the offensive and defensive line. And then Tapadaka had running back next. And I'm going to have to disagree there. I'm not going to say running back isn't important, because it is. That position is important. But it's not as important as it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. I mean, it's really not. And Tech has, if you look at between Stockton, Felton from the 2014 class, everybody's expecting, Stockton to be a star. I mean, they have to hit on Stockton. And then if Corey Dauphine, this Port Arthur Memorial kid, man, I really, really, really suggest y'all take a second, third, fourth look at this guy. I mean, he is a beast. 6'1", almost 190. His great speed. I mean, he won gold with it was a 21-something 200 at a district track meet the other day. He's just a specimen, and I think he could be really special for Tech. I think they could really get a steal if they hold on to him. So while running back is important, I would put linebacker ahead of running back. I've said this, I know I sound like a broken record, but the key to this program, the key it's always going to be to Tech moving forward, is going to be what they do up front on defense. Yes, secondary is important, but they have that great, very good, expected to be great, very large and talented defensive back class from the 2014. I know they have to keep building every year, but it could be a program changer as far as your secondary. I mean, that could really set them up for years. So quarterback, defensive line, offensive line, linebacker. And then from there, tight end's got to be up there, actually, I think, because they're obviously going after tight ends pretty strong. You can see that Tech's really making a push to get it. They need that guy that they could really depend on, a big dude. I don't know if they're expecting to necessarily land a Jason Morrow, but they need that guy to play that position for them. Another question from Tapadaka is, what's my favorite drink? Beer, whiskey, etc. Well, that's a great question. Beer, I got to say right now I'm drinking Spaten. That's spelled Spaten. It's for y'all who don't know. It's a German beer. It's a little bit pricey, but locally in Lubbock, you get a pretty good deal at Specs. They're not a sponsor. I'm just speaking the truth. It's a good beer. I'm really high on, so to speak, on Spaten as the right now. But I gotta say, for most of my life, it's hard for me to turn down, especially on a hot summer day when I go into a bar, a Dos Equis draft. I mean, it's hard to beat a Dos Equis draft. Whiskey, generally, I like Woodford. I'm a big Woodford Reserve fan. My brother turned me on to Woodford a couple years ago, my older brother. It's just for the price and the taste and everything, it's just a nice, very nice whiskey. Big D 850 has a couple questions. First one is, do I believe Tech will use the 2 remaining scholarships this year or save them for next? Well, first off, Tubby did say on National Signing Day that they were still recruiting. Now, a couple of their targets chose to go a different route, to go to different schools. So I think they still have their options open. I think they still are recruiting, but I don't think they're just going to throw it at bodies. I don't think they're interested in that. They're looking at specific targets, and if that materializes, then yes. But if not, obviously they'll, like I said, they'll save them. And as far as biggest need in terms of a position, is another question he has. I think both another big body with the mass exodus of seniors, and then Tolbert transferring, and then Aaron Ross going down with the knee injury. He's going to miss at least most of next season. They could use another big body. And then they could use another point guard. Robert Turner had a pretty good year. I know he got a lot of flack, justifiably so. But he had some bright moments, and I think I look for him to definitely progress even more for his senior year. Keenan Evans is coming in with the 2014 class. He's more of a classic point guard. He penetrate and distribute. He can score, get to the rack and score. Very athletic. But they could use another point guard. Onyewaser is a good player, but I don't really see him as a point guard. I think they played him there because they had no choice. I see him more as a slashing wing, a 2-guard. Very good defender, though. Motor City Titans fan. One of my favorite posters, one of the top posters on the site. For those of you who don't know, he is a fixture on the basketball board, and he has a question for the mailbag here. He wants to know, speaking of the 2014 class, of the 6 players that have signed, who I think can come in and make an immediate impact. First off the bat, I got to say Justin Jamison, 6'9", 245 to 260, depending on who you ask. Power forward, big man, athletic. He'd dunk on your head for fun. Tubby was raving on National Signing Day about his ability to finish around the basket with either hand. I think he has a high ceiling. He has a long way. He can get very, 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 very good. He could become a very, very good player for Tech, maybe even an all Big 12 player. Another guy I'm really high on, who I don't think even we are giving him enough pub, is Justin Gray out of Florida, out of Tampa, Florida. The guy is very athletic. He's a smart kid. I mean, he chose Tech over Harvard and Stanford. He's a lot more polished than what I think he's been getting credit for. I know the biggest knock on him is his outside shot, but it's not. That's really an oversimplification. Maybe from downtown, but as far as his mid-range game, he's way ahead of the curve. And I welcome you to look up his highlights. Several highlights showcasing his mid-range game is very nice, and I think that's going to have a huge impact for Texas Tech next year. Like I mentioned before, Keenan Evans, I think they're going to need him to come in and play some minutes as a backup point guard. They're going to need his ability to penetrate and distribute. So those are the 3 that I really expect immediately. I like the other 3, Odiasi, Williams, and Zach Smith. Zach Smith, you'll probably see a lot next year. I really think all 3 of them are going to contribute, but the first 3 who I expect to make the immediate impact. So that's going to do it for this week. I really appreciate all the questions. Thank you for joining me on this edition of the RaiderPower Mailbag, and I'll see you next week.